This incident occurred when Patrick was going to school in Arizona. A group of his friends wanted to take him out exploring. Now, he grew up in the Bay Area of California. He was a city kid through and through. He had never been camping. And the only time in his entire life that he'd even seen snow was at the top of a mountain about 50 miles away from his house. So there are 6 of them in total, Patrick and 5 friends. And they're heading to the Mogollon Rim from Tempe, Arizona. And they'd left Tempe about 5 a.m. And this was not a day trip. These guys had packed tents, food, water, everything that you can think of. And Patrick brought his .45 with enough ammo for a just-in-case situation. After about 5 hours, they finally get there, and Patrick is in awe. The smell of the fresh air and the view of the mountains was amazing. 2 of the guys started setting up camp. So Patrick decided he was going to just check out his surroundings a little bit. And one of the guys told him, don't go too far. And he agreed, but he also had his .45 with him just in case. But he just walked around the woods for a little bit. He was walking for about a half an hour. And he was just about to sit down on a rock and feel the cool water when he saw a black flash out of the corner of his eye. But when he looked up, there was nothing there. No noise, nothing. And he thought to himself, well, maybe I'm a little tired from the drive and maybe I should get back to camp. So he gets back to camp and relaxes for a while. And about midnight, he and his buddies decide to go hike to the rim. So they grabbed their canteens and they took off. And at this point, one of the guys mentioned the Mogollon beast. And Patrick thinks to himself, here we go. And one of the other guys asks, what's that? And the first guy says, well, it's like a Bigfoot creature. And they all kind of laughed. And Patrick says, well, I'm protected, as he pats his .45. And the guy says, that's not going to stop it. And Patrick says, well, if there's a Bigfoot charging at me, this will at least stop it. And they all laughed and continued their trek. And Patrick realizes he has some business that he needs to attend to. So he walks off about 50 feet to find some trees to attend to his business. And as he's standing there, a pebble about 2 inches wide hits him in the knee. Now, his first thought is that his friends are just messing with him. So he zips up and walks back to the group. So as he's walking back, he picks up a few small rocks, and as he gets closer to his friends, he starts pegging his friends and saying, you want to play games? And his friends are like, what the hell? And Patrick says, while I was peeing, somebody threw a rock at my leg. But they were all about 50 feet from him. So for them to have thrown a rock to hit him in the leg, they would have had to chuck it pretty hard. But the rock that hit Patrick's leg was not thrown from that far away. It wasn't thrown very hard. And no one was around him. They were all by the rim. So Patrick's second thought was, WTF? So Patrick suggested that they all go back to camp because he was getting hungry. And that is when all hell broke loose. As soon as everyone got up, a roar came from the forest to the right, like a lion roaring at a zoo. It was one of those guttural T-Rex kind of roars from Jurassic Park. So Patrick pulls his .45 out and starts walking a little faster. Right then, a rock about the size of a basketball flew about a foot away from his friend's head. Then, about 4 or 5 branches, about 2 inches around, 6 foot long, were lobbed at them from behind the bluffs. At that point, they all start running. Patrick was actually the last one. He turns around, lets off 5 rounds, and starts running. They all got to camp and started packing up their stuff. And their friends asked Patrick what he was shooting at. And he said, I was just shooting at the air, trying to scare it off. They must have had their whole campsite packed up in 15 minutes. And they start piling into their Jeep. And as they're getting in, Patrick takes one look back, and right at the tree line, he sees an 8-foot black Bigfoot. It just stood there, watching all of the guys pile into the Jeep like scared ants. And Patrick stood by the back of the Jeep. He just stood there. Half of his brain wanted to shoot at it, and the other half wanted to talk to it. He was just fixated on it like he was in a trance. He was about 30 feet away from it. And he said it felt like it was just him and the creature. And he could hear his friends yelling at him, but it was just like muffled background noise. And he can remember wanting to say something to it like, I'm sorry that I shot at you and scared you. But his trance was broken when one of his friends grabbed him, shoved him in the Jeep, saying, there's the Bigfoot, let's go. And when he got in the Jeep, Patrick looked back out the back window and it was gone. That was in 1992. And not only did Patrick never go back to the rim, but to this day, he has never gone back in the woods. But even now, in his late 40s, Patrick will tell you that he knows what he saw. What he saw was a man, a tall, hairy man with gentle eyes.